we first met in the steam room.
Oh, correct.
And I heard that story where someone said, "Are you going to make a film of my life one day?"
There was a bloke in Malta who was that actually,
Yeah.
sat on a wall opposite governors.
And I said to you, what does he mean? What story was he talking about? And you referred to what happened when you were a kid in Fishergate.
Oof.
Can you tell us that story?
I'd actually pay for this. I've actually stood up and said I would pay. What happened was we lived in Ashton Avenue and I'd be about 7 years old. Now if you can imagine, I'm looking on good side at council and that. We lived in a council house. My mother had 4 kids, Ronnie, Muriel, Jean, me. And all of a sudden, Audrey's wife used to hate me even talking about this. We then got on our way on a horse and cart and finished up at this flat.
When was it?
Oh, I should be good enough to know this, Luke, without messing you about. It's got to be. It's got to be not a 1945 class when they blitzed York. We're dead opposite Fishergate School. We was. I think the flat was number 44.
And where was your dad?
Well, this is where I'm getting to the story of. He was called up, obviously, Pioneer Corps, to join the war. Now, as I got older and I like to think a bit wiser, not much, I thought, well, how come we were in the council house? But I'll be blunt, Mother must have lost that. She's got 4 kids, husband fighting in war. Well, how did she lose house? And I could never grasp the reason. There is a chap that he did give me some advice, and he said he rather thinks she was in debt. But I didn't marry it up because I thought, well, if she was in debt, just by moving to Fishergate, you aren't escaping it, are you? And I got right to this day, and I even I even thought of going at Guildhall, because they must have record books, but it's a bit late now, isn't it? I think they burnt them all or destroyed them. But I've always been fascinated with that. What made her vacate the council home? Because I mean, you only have to pick a paper up now, and if somebody's got kids and that and they're in trouble, the council will gather round. All we did was vanish on a horse and cart to Fishergate, number 44. What a place that was.
What was it like?
Well, at 7, 8 years old, to me, the river was the big. I was like Huckleberry Finn. I knew Fulford Fields backwards, you know. I learned to swim in river. Somebody said, where did you learn to swim? Well, it was St George's Bass, but we used to go off cannons in Bluebridge Lane. Don't know if you know that. Yeah. And I tracked that down. I went in the library and it showed you. I actually saw cannons on the photograph, but owing to war, when they collected all the metal, well, everything, railings disappeared and this disappeared and the cannons disappeared. But it was like paradise to us, and there was. I had a fascinating thing happen to me. There was a butcher's next door. I'm sure it was called Myers, and he had his own abattoir. And I had a mate called Georgie Mangum, and we were always hanging about. Like, and this bloke come, and he had 2. It was an education for me. He had 2 known as rat killers. Now I'm trying to get name it dog. He had 2 dogs, him and his mate. They were renowned for, they could just kill a rat by getting hold of it. And he says, you 2 lads live here? Well, I said, I do. He said, what I want you to do is get out of the way. And he says, don't come out at all. So we were in luck. All the stairs in the flat, and there was this big window that you could overlook into the yard where butchers were. So we sat there and we thought, something's going to happen. And all of a sudden, out the bag come the ferrets. And he put these ferrets in, I'm not kidding you, Lord. It was just the mass of rats came out at ceiling. Yeah, and of course, no chance. You know, the ferrets had them, killed them, and that blokes had the, obviously, trousers all tied up. But what an education that was.
Otherwise the rats would go up the trouser leg.
Oh yeah, it was just a kid's education, you know, and I thought, wow, but the rats. And I mean, there was hundreds just came out at guttering and that. They dropped into the yard, well, there was no escaping yard once the dogs got in there. So I'm just rattling on about things like that, you know, and our big haunt was Fulford Fields. Like, there was number 1 tip, and then when you broke through, when you went through the gate into the next, it was 2 field, 3 field. But now, I've been back, I used to get on my bike and have a ride round, silly old memories, and Fulford Fields, the first tip, that's just been beautifully covered. I once heard a report, once you finish with the tip, it had to sit 10 years before I don't know if that's true or not, to cultivate it, said.
Is this the Ings?
No, that's at the other side, yeah. There's Clifton Ings at one side and Fully Fields, as we nicknamed it, at this side. And we did the most ridiculous thing one night, because nobody, if you wouldn't imagine how Mick asked me to this day, he said, what did you do? I says, I was brought up, son, in the room. He said, what do you mean? All I was faced with, if you wouldn't imagine, my mother, she took Jean away. It was a conga. She said she was going to Scarborough for 4 days holiday. So if you wouldn't imagine, we hung our window, Muriel, was Ronnie with us? Because he died in Fairfield Sanatorium, did Ronnie? I think he was with us. There was
How come he died? What happened?
Oh, consumption. I tracked that down as I got older. You know what causes and it's a bad diet and poor living. So he was well into that. How I never got it, I don't know. But he died at 18. And we were all at...
Did you get on with him?
Well, our Mick often passes comment now. Because, you know, a right good lad he is. He's in Twilight Zone, he's 67. And he's got COPD. So he's no chance. And what I love about him, he knows it. Yeah, he don't well, he moans, but he don't blame anything. It's smoking that wiped him out. Where was I? Aye. So if you wouldn't imagine, we're all hung out of this window at Fishergate, waving your mother off with your sister, Holiday. I've never seen her since. Well, I know she's dead because I got a bloke and he tracked it all down. She ran off to London. She obviously met somebody from barracks. You know what it's like in them days. No, you don't, no. Well, mother was a mystery, you see. There was Ross's fish shop next door. I know she had a job there. Whether it was spinning spuds and peeling them, I don't know. But our Mick says to this day, he says, we've never been a family dad for hugging and all this business. You know, and I says, nah, and he said, well, like you. He says, what, you were on your own then? I says, yeah. He said, what did you do in the night when it got dark? I said, just sat in this room looking at a coal fire with a poker stuck in, like they used to do it all days, keep it going. And he says, telly. I said, there was no, only time televisions came in was 1954, went Coronation. I said, no telly, no wireless. What? And he said, yeah. I said, that was it. And then it got worse.
So she disappears.
Oh, sorry, you pull me up, look, yeah. She did a runner with daughter,
and you lived on your own?
So that left me. Muriel had an argument with my dad, and she left the home. So if you can imagine, Ronnie's in Fairfield, he dies. So El Supremo was left there at 9-year-old on his own. Now, here's where it gets worse, and somebody'd say, that's got to be a line, it weren't, when you got up on the morning, on my own, the flat was reduced from 3, Shepherds owned it, you see, and I think my dad was getting the nod from Shepherds or something, and they wanted certain rooms back, like I know for a fact, they turned one into a snooker room, for their employees. So we finished up, me and my dad finished up with one room. And in this room, if I had an artist, I could get him to draw it. It had the bed. They then converted the corner into a toilet that was all boarded off, and that was it. And that's what you had to live at. So like our Mick says, so when you walk up, he said you were looking at a place that confined a toilet and a table and 2 chairs. I said, yeah. Now here's where it gets really serious. And I think he'd believe me because I had no reason to lie. Now, as far as luxuries goes, like breakfast, none of that. So he says, what do you mean? I said, I finished up where the only God blessing I had was the school was dead opposite. You see Fishergate? Well, we were dead opposite. I used to get out of bed and just go to school. Mick, sorry, I'm laughing. Mick said, what about breakfast? I said, not like that. I said, what I got, a godsend was school dinners. If I hadn't got that, what? He says, and when you come home? No, I said, nothing. Because there was nothing there, you know. And he's got quite fascinated with this. No breakfast, school dinner. Back home, nothing, and you just survived on a night playing up Fulford Fields, Tarzan, and Tarzan was the big thing then up rope, you know, in River. And what it is with me now, you get people. I've got a very dear friend, and she says she's got to have people around her, you see. And I hope I'm boring you, am I? And she says, how do you? No, I said, I was brought up like that, Les. That you can call it a loner, but it never happened to sit on my own, do things on my own. I like to think I get on nice with people, try treating them politely. And I says, but it never bothered. She then admitted she's got to have people around her fussing. No, I says, I mean, I get in some terrible things like, what was it? I said it here actually. Just said it. So there's a bloke comes in, Michael, nice bloke, landscape gardener, but I know for a fact he's hacked to death with good lady, like we all are. And he come in one day and he says, is this what you want me to do? Just tell it to. So he come in one day and for some reason he dropped his bag at the back of me, which his gear, and he says, it's my first day. Oh. I said, oh, that's nice. So then he says, for some reason, I don't know what he said, what are you doing today? I said, nothing. So it went quiet, you see. So he went and did what he did, and I went and did what I did in my heyday. Next day, lo and behold, this is long before virus and that. And for some reason, he just said the same thing. He says, what are you doing today? I said, nothing. So when he got to Friday, I thought, I better have a word with this lad. I says, hey Mick, I said, don't think I'm being ignorant. I says, I'll talk to you on subjects and that, but when he asked me, what, he said, yeah. No, I said, don't do anything. But I then learnt in my conniving, I think I twigged it, because when he got in the pool, he swims outside now, he used to swim indoors with White. And they were tied together. In fact, they were nicknamed Siamese twins. And she, as they're swimming, she was giving him all the jobs she wanted him doing that day. So I think this is maybe the reason why he's asking me, what am I doing today? I said, nothing. Only my bent sense of humour. But the stories you acquire as you go on, as Audrey and I, we had to get married. My fault, go along with that. It was 1953, and I was taking him France. This is where Mick gets interested, you see, because he said, this is how the planet, our humanity's changed to me. He said, how did you go on, Dad, when... Oh! I said, I had to appear in front of your mum's mother, and I was called a filthy pig, dog, you name it, I got it. I says, and in them days, son, you weren't allowed in a church, no white wedding, there's nothing like that. If you were taboo, you were taboo. But it was all illegal, really.
Why were you taboo?
I was just hated.
Oh.
Because I made Audrey pregnant. Well, my fault, wasn't it?
Oh, right.
Oh, sorry, have I missed you?
Yeah,
Have I
so
missed
got
you?
pregnant. Yeah.
And Audrey says to me, they never, right from the beginning, I had no chance, you know. And Audrey says, the man wants to see you. I thought, Jesus Christ. So I got rock off. And from that moment on, it was just, so of course, Audrey had the Ben, which is now Mick, who I've got back. Always fascinates me that I've gone round in a circle, I've got him back. And
you didn't have him for a while then? You say you got him back?
oh, sorry, that was a joke. Well, he moved on, got married and all that, you see. And that's my joke with people here. I'm very careful what I say, I wouldn't hurt them. Like one guy says, what's he say? It's Neil, his daughter. I'm getting married, mate. I said, don't worry, she'll be back. I'll tell you a great story about that in a minute. Anyway, register office. No, there was nothing like you weren't allowed church, nothing. It was just, when I look back on it and I think of Audrey, it was just awful how a young lady can. But the thing was, what fascinated me, and it was our Mick that did it, when she passed away in 2014 with dementia, our Mick said, I wrote away. I said, what for? Well, he said, you've been married 61 years, Dad. He said, nobody's married 61 years. So we got this card from Queen and all the paraphernalia, which is in a briefcase at home on Audrey, and I keep that, you know.
Brilliant.
Well, it goes back that. So anyway, I dropped the most unholy clanger of my life. When I worked at Adams Hydraulics, by the way. It's gone now. Apprentice, got to 21, married, and my way, Mick says, he had I think it's his mates that were at him. It was a gag they were using, nothing to do with me. Do you all remember your first your first week's wages in your life? And Mick says, do you know your I said, aye. I said, what you got to think of, son, is me and your mum were married and we were trying to survive, bringing you up. So what were we on? I said, £2.12 and 6 a week. He says, £2? Yeah. He says, good God. And I said, them were tough. And what happened to us then, we lived with mother and stepfather that just completely hated me. If I'd have dropped dead next day, that'd have been great, but I didn't. And nobody was happy about anything. Then we got, I'll say, we were kicked from pillar to post, and we then went with Audrey's, let me get this right, Audrey's brother, Harold. That didn't work out. That was at Bell Farm, because you know, notorious how Bell Farm was in its day. So we finished up there. Just going through, no money, no nothing. Next thing, we then transferred to Lily. That was Audrey's sister. I got on well with Lily. She was a cracker. They lived in Groves. And I talked to people about Groves, and I don't think they believe me for 1 minute. We lived in Jackson Street, which has all been now demolished. But what it had this thing of, when winter came and everything froze, I never did this, but they say it was true. There was only 2 toilets in the street that worked. So everybody in the street, it was them. Now somebody says to me, well, no, I says, I ain't going to jump on bandwagon. I was lucky that I didn't have to go, but I said, there was only 2 toilets in Jackson Street that worked.
And the rest were frozen?
Well, everything just, even school, I remember Fashion Gate School with row toilets. And I think today there'd be hell on if it was just a disgusting sight. Every toilet was to the top, frozen solid, everything. And
the basin of the toilet?
Yeah. Now you might ask, where they'd flushed it? Well, as the water just froze. Now, that was 1947. That was supposed to be Westminster in York, actually. I don't know on record. But I know people think that's a lot. But I'm just being honest, everything froze. But yeah, the best.
House you grew up in Fishergate, the flat you had, is that building still there? Or
Oh!
Is it where the Mecca Bingo is?
What happened there, Luke, was as we left, I wish, like Mick says, well, didn't you have a, couldn't you take photo? I said, hey Mick, we had no money for a camera. You know, I went in national service. I've missed that story out for you actually. When I was at Adams's and I went through my apprenticeship, and of course you got a bit extra, and then when I got on tradesman's money, which was about £1 difference, and I got home to where nobody loved me, and there's this brown envelope on mantelpiece, you see, because of me and my ignorance. You are called up national service. So I was then transferred to Aldershot, Blandford first. I went to Blandford to learn to drive, and then went to Aldershot because of football. And
Were you good at football?
I thought I was, but I have a saying about this. This is another interesting. It galls my son, but he backs off. When I played soccer, I played for Railway Institute and Dringhouses, which I like to think was about 2 of the top teams there was in York District. And we had the centre half, he was a giant, he was to me, George Knott. And all names I remember, George Knott was captain.
You know, quite tall. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
You're 6'4"?
Yeah.
And he was a giant?
In build and that. And we got in dressing room and 2 lads started arguing, 2 footballers, I can't think who they were. And George says, he just put his hand up. And I've never forgotten this, I thought it was great. Don't do that, he said, you can stop arguing. Because he said, we're going to leave you with something, like everybody else. If you were any good at the sport you're playing, you would not be playing here. And all the stuff with me did that. Like our Mick, he played football, and he gets on about, the only one I know in York that made it was David Dunmore. He just died recently actually. I don't know if you remember him. He played for Ewart, and Tottenham spotted him, and he went to Tottenham Hotspur. But Dave Dunmore, and I says, George Knott, if you're any good at the sport, you won't be here. I said, you tell me, a Premiership player in York. Of course you can. Few and far between, very talented people. Now what happened with me was, when you were at Aldershot, Blandford, they had you in groups. They weren't doing that way, you see. Officially you were in army, but they tracked you gently and got you doing this, gave you shots. That was a cracker, that. A big eye on me. Never bothered me, needles. And lads all lined up, just like it was in movies. All of a sudden, bloke in front of you'd faint, one at back of you'd faint. I stuck my arm out. And I'll never forget what I did. They all collapsed and went to bed. And I thought, we clocked this. And I went to pictures. They had a cinema at Blandford for us. Because, you know, there was nothing there that had attracted a human being. Never any females or nothing like that. And I went to movies. And I'm sat looking at this movie and I kept going, well, I got out of that bloody picture house and I got back to me Billy. Hey, I went out 3 days. Went out like a light. For these shots, they were giving you shots for the broad, you see. If right. You know, so that was an education. You were as tough as you thought you was. And then I was a bit sad with what happened next. As you got to your end of your 8 weeks training, they posted your postings up on thing, and I looked. Oh, I thought, Jesus Christ. I was only one, had all names, then it had me, Stead, Aldershot. I thought, and it was through football. Now Aldershot, Buller Barracks, the CEO was completely infatuated with football. And what he'd done, he'd collected all top players, like Billy Fouts. Do you know Billy Fouts, Manchester United captain? Well, he was there. And who is it? He was further up at Blackwell, was Bobby Charlton and that. But if you can imagine all that, and there was only one player in York, and our Mick disbelieved me, but he went to a funeral and he died, and they were burying a lad called Clive Moucher. He was captain at Railway Institute when I played, and he was the only player I know that was an ordinary workaday lad player that played with 10 internationals. And for one reason, he was super fit, Clive Moucher. And then suddenly I learnt off our Mick. He said, oh, what you were telling me, Dad, about Clive Moucher. I said, how did you get? I said, his funeral was at crematorium, he says, and they read it all out. So, great interest in people, like. I hope I aren't boring you today.
No, you don't.
Anyway, you asked, you chopped me off if you...
Just tell me a little bit more about what I've told your story to a few people about you living on your own when you were a kid.
I lived all on my own.
There.
He was at eBay. They should have directed all his mail. This is where my sense of humour comes. I get older. All his mail should have gone to eBay in Nunnery Lane. It's a pub, because that's where he just about lived. So eBay.
Did he sometimes come back to the house?
Oh, sorry, he come to the flat. He got his whacking beer and dominoes, and then he staggered back to Fishergate and thank you very much. And his voice to me was, all I ever heard from my dad was, and this isn't sarcasm, see you outside school tomorrow, we're moving. Oh, right, so I'd leave school, there he stood, and then we went to a place in Bishopthorpe, usual terraced houses and that, where about 7 lived, and then all of a sudden, as time went on, see you outside school, we're moving. So that was, and I went to, and she was very nice. It was a lady called, must be all dead now, a Mrs. Cross. And it's the first time in my life I finished up with a room of my own, with a bed. I aren't moaning, I'm just saying now, that's what galls me about these kids today, and Audrey somebody, oh God bless her. All these kids, most of them, they all seem to be suffering with nervous disorder and rough this. And I said, no, Mick, they'd have been with me in Fishergate. Within a week, they'd have hung themselves. I says, I watch them when I leave gym, you see, I'm faced with kids going to school. I think beautifully dressed. All lasses look like $1 million and everything. Us, you're lucky if you had a pair of pants to wear, And they all seem to have this mental disorder, and I can't marry it up.
What advice would you give to someone that was a young person? What would you say?
Be very thankful what you've got. That's about only thing I can. Be thankful, because, my God, what? There was worse. I get fascinated with things that happens in life. Like, I'm very passionate, and I watch it, about the Holocaust. I'm right into that. How Mick used to worry about me. So much for that. I said, I like to see the atrocities that went on. Now, I'm watching Holocaust one day, and I don't know if it was they got into the big one, Belson or something, and they brought two guys out, 97-year-old, that had survived, and they interviewed them. Now, what fascinated me, I thought, 97-year-old, so they went through beatings, starvation, worked at nearest point of death, 97, great. All of a sudden, I'm watching telly a week after, London Marathon. Well-known chef, who I certainly didn't know, TV personality, last 2 mile, 25-year-old, dropped dead, heart attack. And I thought, well, it's all a mystery to me how these two guys went through hell and high water, and this guy never suffered now in his life. But that's where another story comes. Full of stories, mate.
Keep going.
I didn't join, sorry, our Mick said something to me, and he says, don't insult you, Dad, but he says, You fascinate me where you can step out of one thing and you seem to step. He said, I have some very good friends, because he's quite up on top. He said, I have some very good friends that, you know, clever lads and that, but they can't get a job anyway. He said, you seem to... So what I did, I dropped the most unholy clanger. At Adams's, they put in for a new boss. So, I'm not a little feeling, you know, it's like, you know. So I goes home this night, and I'll never forget it, and Audrey says, are you alright? Yeah, I said, I suppose so. Says, I've just thought of something. She says, what's that? This job, because she knew everybody, me and Chris, we've been together that one. I said, this job that's going, I says, I think I'll write, you know, an application, if that's the word. Wrote this application out, folded it up, put it in an envelope, went to office next morning. Henry Fisher, Henry Fisher, he was boss. Come in. Morning, Mick, morning. I said, that's my application, Henry. Aye, all right, Mick. And I know there were 6 others, you said. So I couldn't give a toss, mate. So when it come to the day they were interviewing people, Johnny Justice, that name, and Stan Fisher, all them, and then me, and for some reason, well, it wasn't for a reason, I had to go. I went to the toilet, and it's a whole new building at Adams. It's beautiful, it was. Showers, everything. Well, looks after yours. So I went to the toilet, like, you know, all of a sudden, I heard this door go, and it was Billy Wilson, timekeeper. Anybody seen Mick Stead? And they're all too quiet. No, we ain't seen him. If you see him, tell him that he's wanted in chairman's office. So I knew straight away. So of course I went. Peter Hopwood. Oh, this, that, your wages, that. I just sat there speechless. What happened then was I was classed as the enemy, and it was the worst. What they should have done, if Adams has got hold of me and says, come on, big head, how do you think we should? You don't want anybody that's grown up in them with them fellas. I mean, if you can imagine, I was then supposed to, I did job all right, I think, but I was supposed to talk to blokes that really would have been my partner, you know, and I felt rather sad and guilty about that. And I think if I'd have been there, I think if I'd have hung on, I'd have gone nuts, because it finished up where the directors and that were a load of nutcases, and the men weren't helping, you know. So Audrey says, what are you going to do? I says, I don't know, I just think I should be moving on. So then we got, what would you like to do? And I says, don't know, and it was Audrey. She says, do you ever fancy a licensee of a pub? She never thought of that. So then, am I all right talking? So then she started looking at paper. A bit good was Audrey. Advert here, Mick, and it's the pub on, got bloody name of it, on Tadcaster Road. Frank Mitchell was landlord. So I went this night when you had to. Peter walked in, and there was a young lady, there was another young fella, 2 young ladies, and I said, is this? Yes. Sat. Next one. Then got Mr. Stead? Yes. Now Frank Mitchell was a killer. You make no mistake about that. And I sat looking at this bloke, and he says, what can I do? What's your idea? And that's when I think I won him over. I liked it. I said, what it is, I said, I'm in crossroads in my life, crossroads. And I said, I think I should move on. And the wife thinks I'll make the ideal landlord. I said, oh, she does this, yeah. And it went on that long, this interview. He actually came in, the head person, and says, sorry about this, Mr. Mitchell, but they're getting a bit upset why they're waiting so long. He'd got that interested in me. I says, I want you to tell me I was on a fortnight's holiday. Sorry, Adams is a shut for fortnight. Perfect. I said, I'd like to be with you teaching, but I said, I don't want pay now. I want you at the end of that fortnight to tell me if I'm any good. Right, so that's fair enough. Right, shook hands and all that. Told me when I would start, what day. So I went. I wish I could name it pub, but I can't. Right, lovely posh place. Went. Sunday it was. Had to report. Bar, shirt, tie. Stood behind the bar, and there was this other young man that was on the same thing. And I think he'd been there quite a bit, and he says, what was the last pub you worked in? I said, I haven't. He says, what year? Nope. Well, he said, I'll tell you what, he said, you're the bravest bloke I've ever met. Or he said, I wouldn't know what to do with you. Well, he opened these doors. Bloody hell. So he charged at Light Brigade. It was all, not wrong with them. It was in the good old days when it was, as you if there was 6 of you, you bet when he finished his pint, that one wanted filling. Well, anti-bloody mate.
Which pub was this?
I wish it's on Tadcaster Road, it's still there. There's Windmill.
How far out?
Or if, that's in town, Roman Bath.
No, where the
There was Windmill on corner, but you had to go further than that.
Foxton.
That's it.
Foxton Hound.
Well done. Yeah, well done, look, yeah. And Frank Mitchell was the bigger, and I mean the bigger I am. So I was serving.
He was scary, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, because you had to add up. I mean, I wasn't very good at maths at school, but I certainly got better. I mean, you get somebody 6 pints at you, and you had to tell them how much they owed, with a bag of rags they were. Well, what Audrey did, the crafty devil, she had a very dear friend in Street, and they drove up to the pub and they stood it back. It was honestly, them were the good old days. And they said, never seen anybody white like it in their life. If ever I saw a bloke that was going into battle at Normandy, it was you. Well, bloody. So when it finished, it was clever as Frank Mitchell, because if I'd have had out about me, I was on duty. He told me all what my duties was: dinner time Sunday, night time Sunday. Where you wait and see if I come back, he said, which I did, and that's what threw him off. So then it took off, and then not boring you to death. When it got to end of my fortnight and he called me in office, he went through everything, stock, this, that, and he says, right, he said, you want an answer? Yeah. Whatever you're doing, he says, wherever you are, you're wasting your time. Because if ever I saw a profession, don't think I'm bunging me son up, if ever I saw a profession, it's you. So what we had to do then, look, was, he had big pull in brewery, you see. He had contacts that not many had. So we went into a chain thing. So I know Audrey got quite nervous. I'd got over a bit of that. And he says, we had to have a photo taken of OSN, sent at brewery. They wanted the photo. They got that many, they wanted somebody idea. Anyway, Audrey, she'd stopped smoking then, but she started again. That's how nervous you are. Anyway, phone call, brewery. Mr. Stead, yes. We found a pub that you would like you to go and have a look at. And I says, oh, of course, you have to go. Now the law states, the brewery law states, when you go to see a pub, that landlord or landlady can't buy you from any room. Whatever room you want to see, they've got to open it. They can't kid you up top. In Leeds it was, and everything I'm telling you is true. I thought somebody's got something planned for me, and I think it was called Duke of York. So we're driving round Leeds, which I'm not very good at, and Audrey says, this bloke will know. And it was a postman. Oh, that's good. Pulls up, window down, and Audrey said, "Excuse me." Well, I couldn't believe the look. This postman, he stuttered. So with my Audrey says, "Do you know where that pub is?" Laughing. So Audrey just blew him out. She got an idea, so I drove round, and there it was. Junkie York. And I thought, wow. Now Leeds to me, even where now you no chance. I mean that's packed with, that's like North Africa, isn't it? Leeds. So anyway, knocks on the door, shows him the letter. "Oh, come in." Man and wife. I walks in. Now I've never seen a fridge in the middle of a room. Boom, boom. So as we walked, I mean we were posh, but I think we. So we walked in, and there's this fridge with 2 cats sat on top eating bacon, and I thought, wow. So Audrey says, "First thing you look at," I learnt this. First thing you want to look at, toilets. If ever you're going to take a pub over, you go to the toilets, see how it's kept up. So I said, "Oh, sorry, I just want to go to the toilet." Liar. Went, not too bad, now with ball aching about, come out. Cats, this, to the. So by this time it had reached 11 o'clock, opening time that I'd forgotten about. So as he's talking, this landlord and landlady, there with it, thought I was rough. Bloody hell, they'd have waked me out. They opened doors. If this bloke, I know it sounds odd, if this first bloke come in with a shield and a spear, I thought it was Michael Caine in Zulu. I thought, wow. Hey, come in, 1 or 2, not a lot, about 6. A lady come in with a bairn in her arms, and she says, she knew the landlord obviously, and me and Audrey and I stood there, mouth wide open, and in a gas, and she says, "Okay," and you'll know what a pub's set up with beer mats, towels and that, and she just got her arm on bar, she wiped all that off, put kid on thing and changed its nappy, and Audrey looks at me and I said, "Oh." We got back home and Audrey, she was a killer, was Audrey, she wouldn't let out go. And she phoned Brewery, what you call a district manager. She said, "I think you got us mixed up with somebody else to attempt us to go and see that play." But yeah, honestly, what an education it was, eh? Yeah. When she changed nappy on Brown, I thought, wow. So anyway.
What was in the fridge in the middle of the room?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, it was working. Oh, nobody opened up nothing. It was just a sight of. I mean, like I won't be disrespectful. I bet I could go in your house and your fridge would be fitted in somewhere, like your washing machine. Oh, not this one. Middle of the kitchen. And I thought, wow. And everything about it was a disgrace. So anyway, got over that. So then, Audrey got very nervous, and it was all done by a phone call. And then phone rang. Our district manager, he was a nice fella, I can't think of his name, God bless him. He said, "We've got another one to offer you, and it's Tamashansa in Hull Road," which is gone now. I mean, it cost £1 million. I didn't believe that. When they went to get hold of that, yeah. When York University went to get hold of that, the bloke told me it cost £1 million, because they wanted all the back of it. It's all apartments, you see. Anyway, I'm jumping tail. Tamashansa. Oh, right. It's got an abattoir with it, because they slaughtered their own. And that worried Brewery, because let me get this right. Our Mick was grown up on the railway, and Tony was just an 11-year-old lad. So we were quite worried about your 11-year-old son. Anyway, we bulled our way over that. So we got Tamashansa, but there's some funny stories. Do you want me to tell you all the funny stories? Can I?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with pub. Nice. Well, clientele, well, that was going to be up to us. That's your first job when you get a pub. You've got to clear it out. So, got the pub, and it wasn't right. I sat one night on bed about after a week, and Audrey says, something wrong in there. I said, yeah, running this right. This is, I thought this one at bed. Somebody said that should have been on telly, this. I said, I ain't doing my job right. I said, there's people in this. Frank Mitchell taught me this. He said, you'll get a person in your pub that will be spending 50 quid a week. But unbeknown to you, is losing you 100 quid a week because of the people don't want to come in. And there was people in there.
Right.
So I said, sorry, right, I'm going to start tonight. Bum bum. Audrey hid, she was hiding, she was hiding in catering kitchen, and I was behind the bar. I did it, I thought, politely. Will you please take your whatever it is to some other place? No trouble, they went. So be about 8:30, Audrey says, you don't think you're going overboard because she said there's nobody. I said, no, I'm just sticking. Now where it proved it was right, the next week you couldn't move in the place. And he never said it to me, he said it to Audrey, this bloke. He says, oh, what a change. He said, I've lived here 32 years, he says, and I'd never bring my wife in here. And he says, no. So it did prove a point, like. Anyway.
That guy needed to be got rid of.
Yeah, so where it got funny, from a funny point of view, there was more going out than coming in. Anyway, it got to Saturday morning, never forget it, lovely day, went to the door, as you do, 11 o'clock, open, and there he stood. And not only the little fella, there's some good little fellas, black, and he come in and Audrey says, don't like the look of him. I said, no. I said, I don't know him, you don't. I said, you've got to give a guy a chance, you know. I thought this was the most famous tale I could have told this. So he come in with this fella, no smile, no doubt, and I said, what would you like, sir? Pint. So I drew this pint, and this is where I went wrong. As I stood it on bar, I said, is everything all right? No, he said, it isn't, wife's left us. And that's where I went wrong, because I said, oh, a couple of pints, I said, you get taught on a Sunday, I says, and wife might, no, I said, you haven't let me finish, he says. She left me a fortnight ago, and she's come back today. So, we're going like house on fire, you know. He said, I didn't click at first. He said, that's what you're laughing at. I said, yeah. I said, I thought, no, couldn't believe my bloody luck. He said, she left. But the legal beagles told me, on no account if she comes back, I think the law might alter now. Must you bar her? You must not bar her path, you know. So anyway, he said, I was having a ball, party. He said, I had women coming out me lungs. And he said, this morning, knock on the door, and there she stood with a souk. I thought it was one of the greatest stories I'd ever come across.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Can you remember me? Maybe, I don't want to take up your time, so maybe.
Oh, no.
You told me once about a fellow you were chatting to in the doctor's surgery, and he'd gone to Blackpool.
Yeah, that was a crap.
That story?
Now, Audrey, even my eldest son now, I must tell you a bit about this. There's 11 years difference between Tony and Mick. See? So Mick says to me, as he's got older, we're becoming more like brothers, where he wants to know this. And because he led a hell of a life. I mean, he was engaged 4 times. I think I bought household engagement rings. I forgot what I was going to say.
the Blackpool.
So doctors got that clogged up because Audrey won't well, which proves it, and as gone as Audrey. Had to go to Fishergate. Didn't know it, went. Gets in doctor's waiting room. I sits, Audrey sits, and there's this big burly bloke sat next to her. Got on people. She got on with people, did Audrey, and she says, "You all right?" No, he says, "No, all I'm doing is listening." I was down to laughing at that. No, he says, I love the mess. So Audrey says, "Oh dear." He says, "I've got a guilty complex." He says, "Went to Blackpool," he says, "for our anniversary." And he says, "Got to bed. And we knew all times of meals and that." And he says, "I woke up, looked at my watch and says, bloody hell, slept in." So he jumped out of bed, shook Wayflight, and he says, "Come on." He says, "We're late." He says, "We're late for breakfast." So he said, "I'm up, getting my shirt on and my trousers and that." And she hadn't moved at all. And he says, "Come on." He said, "I bloody told you twice." I was dying to life. And Audrey says, "What was wrong?" So bloke said, "She was dead." And Audrey then nudged me because she knew. She says, "Don't bloody start you." And she's dead. So I got an interest then, he included me. And I says, he says, "The people who own the place couldn't have been better." Because I wouldn't have thought this. They called police, then they called the coroner, then they called everybody. Because they didn't know if there'd been an act of violence or something like that. See? And they let him stay there, all that. So it was quite an interesting story. But I was dying. I was dying. Aye, she was dead.
It's so funny.
Oh yeah.
So, Mick, do you mind me asking how old you are now?
87.
87.
Yeah.
So you were born in
1935. 25th at 6. 1935.
85. So you would have been. When did your dad go to the wars?
Oh, it'd have to be 1940. It'd have to be 1942, 40. If I was born in 35, I reckon I'd be about 6 years old.
Yeah.
Because I always remember Blitz of York and 47, where was the big winter, things like that. You know, the issue was my dad though.
Did you get on with your dad?
Well, this is where Mick comes in, you see. He says, when people say, "No, so we are a family, we are a huggy family," you know, where some people's thankful of seeing each other and all that. We aren't. A bloke asked me, I don't think, I keep blaming Justin on here. Anything, no. I said, "I've got a new system at home." And I actually did this. Like my sister, I blew her out straight away. Muriel. I've got a system now. I said, "It works quite well." He said, "What's that?" I says, "Well, if there's a knock on my door, I go 25 minutes later and they've gone." He says, "What?" "It's a new thing I've got." I says, "I wait 25 minutes and when I go to the door, they've gone." God, must have thought I was bloody crackers then. But me and Mick, we get on like, well, I've got to do. When he got divorced, she went the other way. Well, I shouldn't say to you, what women are. I'm very suspicious. I think they're the most fantastic thing put on this planet. And she was lacking about, she was caught out, divorced. So, Audrey caught me sat up one night, it'd be about 2 in the morning. She says, "Now what's bothering you?" I said, "It's Mick." I said, "Whatever happens, he can't survive because he'd had a bad accident at work. He was an engineer. He worked at the Molten Baking Factory. And he damaged all his back. He had 3 operations." I said, "This kid ain't going to last on his own." I said, "What we're going to do is work something out." So what I did, I'll cut story short. I live in bungalow. We altered it. So he's got an apartment upstairs. So in other words, we took him back. Working out very well, like now works out well and that, but he's got COPD and he's got a decent sense of humour. And he said, which one of us will go first, Dad? I said, I don't know about that, kid. So what I did, I went to funeral parlour. He did a lovely job for Audrey, cremation, and I've paid for mine. So when I got home, Mick said, because I said to him, we've never hid out from each other. I'll tell you when I come back. It's a way off. I said, I'll tell you when I come back. So when I come back, he said, where you been? I said, I can't think of his name. I've got it in my wallet. I said, book me funeral. Oh, how much was it? So he vanished and he come back and he'd done his. But the big question is
Rowley and Sons, is it? Rowley.
That's it. Oh, look, I know when I say lovely, they've got to be in that business. Yeah. But dead on the ball.
He's a friend of mine.
Oh, is he? Because he used to come here. He's vanished. And no, I got on. I thought it was lovely. No. So when it got funnier, Mick says, ask you a question, Dad. And I says, aye, like you do. I says, if I can answer it, I will. If it's private, I won't. Right. I'm 11 years older than Tony. I says, yeah. He said, how did that happen? I said, well, you were a mistake. And I says, Tony, you were first mistake I made, and Tony was second. And he always found that amusing, that. Really said, that's the right answer. I said, you were first mistake, I went through hell, Tony was second one.
Right, Mick, I think I'm
Oh, honestly, I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope I haven't let you down.
You haven't. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, there's thousands of things that I've got this bee in me bonnet about things, and our Mick looks at me and he says, can't answer that, Dad. I want to know things, you say. And I says, I'm baiting him. I said, what's it mean, Mick, fiance? He said, what? What's a fiance? I'm asking him things, you say. It's naughty that I didn't go through, are you with me?
Yeah.
I said, what's a fiance? So anyway, the next one was, it was Audrey that twigged this. They started putting programmes on telly, and one was couples living together, and then the thought of getting married. So what fascinated me was, we were watching this programme. Now this sounds a bit toffee noses, which I had. In our day, to even think of putting white on or going in a church, completely taboo. Like I upset him about Boris Johnson, because I have it weighed up right. Would you like Prime Minister there, Dad? I said, hey. I said, he holds record. He says, what for? It's first Prime Minister I can think in my lifetime that's living over Bush. He said, what's that? I said, I've only read it in history books. What they used to do was put a brush down, and if you jumped over it, you were together instead of a marriage. I don't know if you knew that. So it's an old custom. Oh, I said, didn't know that. Now, I said, next one, they took it out of encyclopedia, but I'll still use it. It's the first one that's had a bastard. He died of death. He said, well, a bastard. I said, only bastard in that field was Elizabeth I. Oh, giving rock all, you know. And it was Queen Elizabeth I. Aye, she was a bastard. And he said, you shouldn't be can't beat truth, can you? So, yeah, we have some right, yeah.
Sounds like you have a good time.
Aye. Right, love. I could sit here all day, but I'm quite sure.
Thanks very much.